Today I will be interviewing Bonnie Gibson. This is May 23rd, 2024. And right now she's at a class that she's teaching, Gourd inside of a gourd. I wanted to show you an example of the type of work that she does.
Okay, everybody, this is Bonnie Gibson. And she's a grade 2 interviewer. Now, hopefully, everybody's heard of you. I mean, of our close. And today she's teaching a class here in Costa Mesa, or I forget what city this is, Westminster.
Westminster.
Yes. And so I came and I asked her several months ago if I could interview her, because we need to be able to look back and talk to people about what they're doing. They may move out of state, out of country, and then we won't have it. So what I was thinking about, I asked people what they wanted to know. And one of the things they said was, what did you do before you even touched a gourd? Did you do art before that?
I've always done art my whole life. When I was a kid, I always enjoyed art. I was going to major in art in college, but got discouraged because they wanted me to do a lot of abstract stuff, and that wasn't what I was interested in.
Oh.
But I still did art after graduation,
Did you
just
take
for fun.
any formalized classes since graduation? Have you ever taken art classes?
No, high school. High school.
But not as
No.
okay. That's
No.
But that's interesting because me neither.
Yeah, well, most of the art that I've learned by reading library books. I'm a big fanatic about, getting stuff from the library and because you can sit and take your time and do it. And there was no
Yes.
YouTube channel and nothing like that back when I was learning.
Oh, it's wonderful now. You can
Yeah.
learn anything from it. So before you touched a gourd, were you working with wood?
Yeah, I started wood carving in my 20s. I went to a mall show where there was a wood carving table, and I talked to the fella, and he says, if you'll buy this one carving knife, I'll give you this chickadee cutout that you can carve. And so I took it home, and I got a book, and I read, brought it back to the show the next year, showed the guy, and he says, wow, of all these that I've given away, you're the first person that actually finished it and brought it back. And I got interested in it.
You felt a connection when you
Yeah.
touched it. Now, I always tell when I first noticed a gourd, because everybody wants to know, where in the heck did you, can you remember the first time you saw a gourd and thought of it as
Yes,
art?
I can. I was down in the city of Tubac where they were having a big festival, and I love Native American pottery. I live in the Southwest. So I saw this booth filled with beautiful large Indian pottery, and I picked one up and I went, this isn't pottery, what is this? And she says, it's a gourd. And I went, a gourd? Because the only gourds I knew growing up in Minnesota were ornamental gourds, which rotted and couldn't be saved. I'd never heard of a hard-shell gourd. So I talked the lady into selling me 2 raw gourds that she had as examples. And then I started ordering gourds from eBay. I didn't know where to get them.
Oh, yeah. That's
So,
true.
but I got hooked pretty quick because they were like wood carving. I could use my same tools that I already had. And I thought everybody else was probably doing gourds with power carving. Come to find out they really weren't. This was kind of a new thing. Most people were just painting them and making them into Santa Clauses and birdhouses.
Birdhouses.
Yeah. So I think I kind of helped to start the revolution where people are carving on gourds, and that's really cool.
Well, I think now, so first you were just an amateur doing your thing and learning it. Do you remember, why did you decide to teach? Did somebody ask you, or how did you start teaching?
I started in gourds kind of professionally when I was on a small Yahoo site called the Gourd Patch. And I forget the fellow's name that started it. But I thought, I want people to see my art. So I started a little web page. And on the web page, I posted some pictures. And first of all, it started with, where did you buy that he-she? And I had to explain what he-she beads were and where I got them. And then they said, well, can you get some for me? We can't find it. So I thought, if I buy 100 strands of he-she, I can keep 10 for myself. I can sell the rest of it and use it to pay for my website hosting. And that's kind of how my business started. But I didn't start selling my art professionally until years after that.
So everybody starts off as sort of a DIY or getting into
Sure.
it, and then but now we're seeing that gourding today isn't anything like it was 20 years ago. It's gone
No,
beyond
it's
it.
changed a lot. So as far as teaching, the first time I taught, I went over to Wellburns and I was going to teach a basic power carving class. And in the back of my mind, I assumed a lot of other people were doing carving and they just wanted some more advanced techniques to, learn how to do things. And when I got there, I had 15 people who had gone to Home Depot the night before and bought a Dremel tool. And they had no equipment with them other than a Dremel tool, and I told them they had to bring a dust mask. So they had that, but they had no carving burrs. And
Do you know what year that was? Do you
oh
remember?
gosh, probably I don't know,
25?
20 to 25 years ago, but I don't remember.
Because
Long time ago.
I think I took my first class from you in 2005 or 6.
And that's when my book came out in 2006, and it was before that. So it probably was 2003, 2004.
And then in Wellborn started having, where you went way across the pasture to that area? Hot days, and we were under the little, that's kind of where I took my first class from you.
Okay.
So you'd already been teaching a while, but I knew, by then people did know your name. You became, once you do this and you get your name.
I think they knew my name because I was doing things so different from everybody else at the time. And, when people see it, they want to do it too, and they start duplicating what you're doing. And, that's okay, as long as they put their own little unique spin on it. But I got a lot of, I got a lot of people sign up for classes because the stuff I was doing was so new.
30.
Okay, that's how I guess I see that. Like you said, you were pushing it, right? Trying to do other things that they weren't normally seeing.
I wasn't trying to. It was just from doing years of wood carving, I probably had other ideas of what I could do on a gourd because they seemed like such a similar thing that I just started doing it out without realizing what I was doing was different.
Do you think, that whole idea of, it was different. People the carving was the hardest thing. I think people were afraid of it, so they wanted to take a class, but I was scared of it too. That seems to be the hardest, I don't know if it is, but hardest one to do. You mess up a big hunk.
Yeah.
So to me, I can understand why there was an interest, and I remember when you taught that. The other thing that I was thinking about too is, so then you got into teaching, and and then you started, and then what about the competitions? When did you get involved in competitions?
They had a gourd competition that the California Gourd Society sponsored at the Wellburns Festival. And so we visited one year. 4 people from my gourd patch drove over from Arizona, and we went to the festival, and we decided that we'd go back again the next year. So I brought something to enter the following year, and it was interesting. I remember a piece that I got that was disqualified from their competition because I had used decorative techniques that perhaps they weren't familiar with. And the comment was, "This has lost all essence of being a gourd." And I thought, oh, okay,
It's lost all essence.
That's what they said. But the second piece that I entered won Best of Show, so, I couldn't be too upset after that. So that was kind of cool.
I think it was hard because the judges were so used to what they were used to seeing.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I guess you left Wellborn and you went, did you do more words then, or have you always done words?
I have done work since the very first year they had one. It was a lot easier because I didn't have to travel over and get a hotel. But I did both of them for quite a while before I just decided it was too much, and I just dropped to doing one close to me.
Yeah. I'm going back to questions people asked me. They said, oh, ask her this, ask her that. One was, what do you think is the hardest thing to teach the students to do? What is the hardest? Is there a really hard one that's more difficult to teach or master?
No, I guess the hardest thing is just to get people to feel comfortable with their tools so that they can jump in and try things, to get them over being intimidated, because a lot of students are older women who are not used to using tools, and they're a little bit afraid. And so if I can take them and have them in a basic power carving class, and at the end of the day have them go home saying, I feel empowered now, I can do it, then that's really what I'm looking for, is people to realize that they can do stuff. They just have to try.
I admit it's scary. It's scary to put that down. Yeah, you think it. And also, so basically, the other thing that I was interested in knowing is, do you see Gourd, like you have always done exhibits in like fine art, right? You've been in fine art competition.
I've always tried to push my gourds into the fine art realm, because when I got in, like I said, mostly what I was seeing was what I would call craft gourds, and there's nothing wrong with craft gourds. There's definitely a place for those. But I wanted to try to take it a step further and be considered more as fine arts, so that I could maybe sell them in galleries and do these fancy, complicated things that I enjoyed doing. And it's hard for gourders to get into galleries. It's better now. But in the beginning, I would take my gourds in and show them, and they'd say, oh, we're not going in that direction. You know, they were very snooty, some of them.
Well, Orange County was hard. Orange County didn't want us either. I stopped telling them it was a gourd. I
Yeah.
just said other, mixed.
Yeah, mixed media. Yeah, but once I kind of got my foot in the door and more people were starting to see them, people are smart. They can look at a gourd and say, this is actually art now, because this is not just a painted gourd. We've done something more to it that makes it unique.
Another,
and there's
yeah.
a lot of amazing artists out there that have decided gourds are a good medium, and they're doing amazing things with them.
I like it. I just started a little bit of wood carving, and I like my gourding easier, and it's less expensive when I make a big mistake, I guess. So yeah, hopefully we're gonna get. I guess the thing is, they think, well, can I make this in a class? And some things you can't teach that in a class. It's too intricate.
No, I can teach just about anything somebody wants to learn, but different levels of expertise will get different things out of the class. If I teach a class that's more advanced, if you already have some skills, obviously you're going to be able to go farther and do better on that project than someone who's just brand new. And to me, it's not so much talent that is important, it's actually practicing and doing things. So if someone does a gourd once every 6 months, they're never going to become really good, because it's that practice that makes you good. And you can take someone who carves every day, who's a beginner and carves every day, and they will progress in 6 months way beyond the person who has natural talent but only carves once every 6 months.
I notice people seem to find a niche. They're going to go, well, I'm going to be pyro, or I'm going to be a paint and stain, or it seems like they find that thing that they speak well. Like, to me, carving is what my hand wants to touch. So I guess you get that from that. Are you gonna ever stop gourding or go to another media? Have you thought about that?
Oh, I've done other media the whole time I've been doing gourds. I like to explore other things because I think it keeps you fresh. So I'll do wood carving still. One day I'll get interested in pottery, and I'll do pottery. So various things. I'm more of a sculptural artist. I've carved all kinds of things, including stone and bone.
Is there anything that you have learned recently that you didn't know before about this? Anything
About
gourding?
gourds?
Or anything that somebody told you? Nothing new? I'm catching you on the spot, but any product or anything that's new to using for you?
There's always something new, you know, and I try to keep an open mind. In fact, today at classes, somebody brought out some kind of I don't know what you'd call it, an engraving type cutter that she's going to try using on gourds, and I'm going to try it when I get a minute to do it and see if it's good or not. I used to do product reviews when I had my Arizona Gourds website, which I haven't had for about 3 years, but I used to do product reviews, and it was a great way to say, hey, here is something that I've discovered, and here's why it works, or here's why it doesn't work. Because who wants to go and spend money on something new only to find out it doesn't work? The one I can think of off the top of my head is like on Facebook and other places. I see them selling these little tiny engraving carvers that you can put in your pocket and take all over. And they really are very weak and don't have much power.
Yes.
They might be good for some things, but for gourding, not so much. So if I can tell somebody in a review, you know, this tool might be good if you want to engrave, you know, a metal piece, but it's not going to work well in gourds. Well, maybe I've helped them save $50 or whatever the tool costs, rather than buying something that's not going to work for what they want.
I agree. I've been pulling stuff out like that and trying it to use it, and then once you know it works, you can say, okay, try this, guys. But that sometimes they don't want to put that kind of money in to find it doesn't work.
And I got into trouble with a few people that would say, hey, I want you to write a review on my whatever, and I didn't give them a 100% review. I said, you know, this is okay for some people, but here's why I think you might spend your money better elsewhere, because this is a flaw that it has, or you know, it's too expensive for, you know, and I was just trying to be honest and give an honest opinion about something. And
Well, I think
9 times out of 10, it was always a positive thing, because people wouldn't approach me unless they thought they had a really
was
good
working.
product. So.
yeah. Then I also remember there was fads coming in, like, you know, the crayon thing.
Oh, there's always going to be
something
fads.
coming in. Yeah,
always
and
going
I
to be
try
fads.
it because you never know, do you?
Everybody is always looking for the next new thing. They want something new and different and original. But invariably, we all go back to the basics of wood burning and painting and carving and weaving, and you know, they're always going to be there. And yeah, the fad stuff will come in, and maybe someday one of those fads will be so great it'll stick. But a lot of them, they come and they kind of go because there's something else that they
Yeah, I did that. I
fall
realized I've
onto.
got it in my studio. I put things away like, oh, I remember 5 years ago this was really, and then it didn't work out for me. But I'm glad I tried it, and I don't know if I
Sure.
won't pull it out again. Are you gonna stop teaching? Did I hear? Or are you gonna keep teaching?
I'm going to keep teaching, but I'm going to try to teach at home or closer to home now. It's the travel, flying places with suitcases
Oh,
and
yes.
backpacks filled with gourds and that sort of thing. It's just getting harder on me as I age. So
Yeah, well, but I think your classes are usually always full, so that means something.
yeah, I think they're hoping that I won't die before they take a chance to take a class.
Well, I took the liberty of taking some videos today of the students working and of you working, just so we can have something down somewhere. And I hope I can do more, because I think everybody likes to. They don't know a person personally. You're the teacher.
It's kind of cool because I actually majored in education, had an education degree. I taught middle school and high school for
Me
a couple
too.
of years. I didn't enjoy it, more because of the discipline problems. Now with Gourds, you get people in your classes that are there because they want to be
Yes.
there. There's no discipline problems. They're eager to learn. I tell you, it is a joy to teach adults and adults that want to do something. Even for the first time, it's really rewarding to see them be excited because they learned how to change their own burrs. They don't have to ask their husband to do it anymore.
You're right. I think it's the first time I ever really touched a tool.
Yeah.
I mean, a drill bit. I started buying them, and you're right. Once you get it in your hand, then you don't feel so intimidated by it.
Yeah, and I want people to have as much fun with gourds as I have. And my philosophy of teaching is to bring out the creativity in people by giving them lots of options of things that they can use to learn from. Not everybody is going to want to carve the exact same thing the teacher has done. Some people want to copy an example in class because they're intimidated. Others, they go home excited because they've been creative, because I allow them to be creative in class.
And I see that. I took a lot of video of everybody interpreted what you were doing a little bit differently.
Yes, and
based
I
on
love
your
that.
skill.
I
Yeah.
love that because, everybody should have their own voice. And like I said, it's fine to copy when you're learning, but as you do it more and more, you want to put your own little, twist on things.
I guess I like, how do you have any ideas? I'm doing it at the top of my head, but how we can attract younger people, because we're all getting old.
Well,
It's gonna
we
die
need,
out here.
we need to do more outreach, I think, as clubs, maybe going into elementary schools or something. And I did a presentation one time for a 4th grade class, and it was fabulous. They were so enthusiastic and excited. I brought in Gourd drums and musical instruments and painted things, and at the end of class, I gave each of them a small coyote gourd that I'd cleaned, and they're not very big. And I told the kids, Mother's Day is coming. I put little screw eyes on the top of them. So I said, you can take it home, and when Mom's not around, you can paint it and give it to her as a gift, or you can ask Dad to help you paint it or whatever. Oh, they were all excited. They thought that was cool. Now, whether they ever do another gourd, I don't know. But
Sometimes they don't even know it exists. So I think if we did more in the schools, people say to me, I didn't even know gourds.
Yeah.
What is it? It's still, I like when we were exhibiting at the Orange County Fair, we had these windows at one point, because the public was seeing something they had never seen before.
yeah, there's still a lot of people that don't know what a gourd is, especially in areas where they're not as widespread as they are in the Southwest and the Northeast or the
So
Northwest.
what do you do when you say I'm a gourd artist?
Yeah. If you go to Missouri, or maybe not that's not a good example, North Dakota, someplace where you can't really grow gourds because you don't have a long season, they're not going to know at all what gourds are. But there's still gourders up there. There's a nice gourd club starting up, or a group starting up in Minnesota, where they have to buy their gourds, or if they grow them, they're much thinner. But they're trying, and they're doing some cool stuff with it and turning out some nice art.
Do you know if there's anything, we have the American Gourd Society, but is there anything in overseas, in Europe?
I think there probably is, but I don't know much about what's out there. Gourds are the biggest, like in Africa and stuff, not so much in Europe. So most of them get their gourds from Africa and import them. I don't think they grow them.
We don't know if there's a, beyond American Gourd Society magazine, there's nothing else out there.
Well, the biggest ones I know of come out of Japan and China. Their
there.
gourding culture is big there,
Oh, I
and
didn't know
they
that.
each have their own style. And yeah, if you travel in either of those countries, you will find gourds and gourd art,
And they can grow them there.
and they can grow them there. In parts of it, like all the gourding, the main thrust of the gourding in China is probably going to be more in the south, than it is up by Beijing or something. But you'll still see the gourd art in Beijing because they're trading and buying and stuff. So I was pleased to see how many different gourd examples I found when I went to China years ago.
I didn't know that. So, okay, I learned something new today. Okay, thank you, Bonnie. People just wanted to be able to, I hope this is going to help people. I want to do more of these interviews also, because if they can't come to your class, how are they going to, at least they can meet you, know who you are. Then when they see a class in the future, they put a face and a name together. And just also, I think we need to have more gourding put down for a permanent show, I guess. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Go online to bonniegibsonart.com and have a chance to really look at a gallery of her art. It's beautiful to see.